let's talk about Wes Moore, y'all, and him vetoing reparations, okay? Now, here's the thing about that. I've been looking at the conversations surrounding this issue, and a lot of these people are talking about, well, if we weren't alive back then, none of us owned slaves, so why do we have to pay for it? And what about welfare? And that's reparations. First of all, welfare is not reparations because welfare is based upon income. It is not based upon race. Okay, so that means that a low-income person of any racial demographic is eligible to receive welfare and do receive welfare. If we were to count per body count, there are more white people on welfare than black people, and that has always been the case. Matter of fact, when welfare was designed, it was designed in the 1930s in response to the Great Depression. Okay, and when welfare was originally rolled out, black people were not allowed to have access to this welfare. Black people were not allowed to have access to welfare till the 1960s in the Civil Rights Movement. So be clear on that. Y'all don't receive welfare far longer than we ever have. That's number one. Number two, okay, if you are in America right now, okay, if you are benefiting and living in America right now, you need to thank slavery for that. That's a fact. Let me show you the receipts. Slavery built America. Slavery built America. Okay. Right here, new research shows slavery's central role in U.S. economic growth leading up to the Civil War. Okay, these two dudes show that the work of enslaved Americans was an important driver of growth, not only in the South, but also for the national economy as a whole, comparable to the growth in per capita output of manufacturing workers in New England. Their findings also show that income inequality increased between white Southern households with enslaved Americans and those without, which means that the households that had slaves had more wealth and were in a higher socioeconomic standing than those who did not have them, okay? Because we know that not everybody had slaves. Got it? Boom. The authors write that their findings demonstrate that slavery was an important institution for economic development in the United States, and that the unrequited labor of enslaved women, men, and children helped produce in significant ways the nation's economic expansion in the 2 decades before the Civil War. This research is important to understand the role of slavery in U.S. economic history, and by further quantifying the exploitation of enslaved people, can contribute to the discussions of reparations and the legacy of slavery to date. How slavery became America's first big business. Now, I have said this thousands of times. When it comes to the issue of racism, and racism did not come first, capitalism came first. What drove capitalism was slavery. And what did slavery drive? Racism. Men, women, and children pushed by the whip produced cotton, rice, sugar, and tobacco valued at well over half of the gross national product. These enormous profits invested in land, stocks, and bonds, railroads, banks, and insurance companies drove the national economy and triggered westward expansion. A related Smithsonian exhibit reads, by 1860, 4 million enslaved people produced well over 60% of the nation's wealth. Okay? All told, more than 600 million, or almost half of the economic activity in the United States in 1836, derived directly or indirectly from cotton produced by the million odd slaves. That's just 600 million in cotton. You got to count the tobacco and all of the other products too, okay? Now, when we get past slavery, because y'all like to just stop at slavery. No, baby, it was more than that, okay? It was more than that. Now we also have to account for the pain and suffering of black codes, which were enacted in response to the Reconstruction era, which happened directly after emancipation. Then you have to account for Jim Crow. And don't get in here and play South, not South, y'all, North, Midwest, West. Don't play them fucking games, because we can drag y'all history of racism and bullshit too. Now, it might not have been so bad if after, okay, emancipation, folk could have just figured out how to leave us the fuck alone. We had black towns, we had thriving economies, people just couldn't stop burning them down. That's something y'all need to talk to y'all ancestors about. Then we also got to go into redlining, okay? We got to go into redlining. Understand that the suburbs and the projects were both created at the same time and with the same funding, okay? So that all started popping off and showing itself around the 1950s. Then we got to go into mass incarceration, where countless people and families benefited and profited off of sending black community to prison for stuff they didn't even do, and then also making sure that if they did do it, they got ridiculous sentences that were not comparable to the sentences that people of other races received. Why? Because it is a for-profit prison system. Okay, we can go through every single agency in this country. We can go through every single agency, and we can show how they benefited from the exploitation of the black American community. Okay, so I don't know what Wes Moore talking about. Fuck Wes Moore as far as I'm concerned. Okay, but baby, okay, a return is due unto us. That is a fact. That is a fact. If you are living in America, you are benefiting from being in America, then you are here. And how this country was formed was slavery. That is a fact. Was slavery. Okay? Now, I don't know everything that's going on in regards to the indigenous community right now, but I know that they hopped on folk ass to get some of the stuff that they get, and I think that they also still have a fight to get some of the other stuff that was taken from them too. There were two groups here that were severely exploited by America in the design and in the expansion of America. There are two groups. Okay? And so I don't care nothing about what y'all talking about or who you think did what. In my opinion, you need to go argue with your ancestors that was kicking the can down the road, because they could have solved this problem a long time ago. And to me, it's no never mind, because we all here now, and the shit still need to be made right. This shit still need to be made right. Okay? Have a good day.